Welcome to Wake the Fuck Up Wednesday. I got frizzy hair today. It's like salt water kind of does it. How are y'all doing? Hey. Oh, it's so fun seeing you all. Hey, what's up? If you're logging on, send me some hearts, send me some hellos so that I know you're there. That's one of the ways that I can see what's going on. Okay, so today, did I start my recording? Yes, I did. Okay, today we are going to jam on the contrast of emotions. Okay, and what I mean by the contrast of emotions is that just like the contrast in nature, we have summer and then we have fucking Alaskan winters, right? We have Alaska, we have Hawaii. We have black and white, daytime, nighttime. We have this natural contrast that occurs in all of the universe, right? Yet for some reason, as humans, we feel like it shouldn't be going on in our emotions. We're like, why am I feeling bad today? Why am I feeling in such a funk? What is wrong? Right? Yet, if we could actually accept that there is this contrast, that pain, that suffering is a part of the human condition, we actually would suffer less. That's the ironic thing, right? So let me get my pen here. You can ignore what it says up here because that was for class I recorded for Freedom School. I think you can still see this. So you may have seen this symbol. Oh my gosh, that's like the best I've drawn it in a while. Usually I always mess up here. Let me put this down a little bit. All right, so you may have seen this symbol before, right? Yin and yang. And this was my first tattoo. It was 18 years old, got it on my ankle. I mean, obviously it didn't look like this. And I got this tattoo because I was like, well, I want to get a tattoo because I had such strict parents. I have to do something else when I'm 18. And so I decided to get a tattoo. And I was thinking, but I want to make sure it's something I'm going to like forever. So, that's kind of a big question when you're 18. Like, what are you going to like forever? And interestingly, what I landed on was a yin yang symbol. And so for me, the reason I really resonated with it was because it did symbolize for me a reality that was never going to change. That we would always have the contrast, that we would always have the contrast of our emotions of positivity and of negativity and of good things in the world and hard things in the world, right? So today I wanted to talk about the resistance, and I'm sort of like seeing that people are having a hard time logging in here. So hold on just one second. Oh, there we go. Okay. So I want to talk about the resistance that's there because oftentimes with my clients, with my patients, with my students, I see them saying like, I don't understand why I feel bad. I don't understand. Like, I wish I could just be happy. There are other people out there who are always happy, right? First, that's not true. The nature of being human means that we have suffering. I mean, in the Four Noble Truths in Buddhism, right? One is that we suffer. Okay. That as humans, we suffer. And as humans in a body, if anything, even if your whole entire life's perfect, you can guarantee that you're going to get sick or grow old, have some aches and pains, and then like die, right? But instead of being morbid, when we look at this and we go, oh, right, this is the nature of things, then we can stop fighting reality and creating how we want to respond to it, and then actively creating the reality that we want to more actively participate in instead of having it happen to us. Okay. So, for example, we would have, like when my father died, right? I was deep in my meditation practice, um, going to lots of teachings. I think I'd even just seen the Dalai Lama in Pasadena or something. I can't remember. It was all like kind of blending that year. But I remember when my dad died, I was in this very centered place. And I remember thinking, oh, this is part of it. This is part of being human. This is part of the human experience, is that we're going to love people and we don't know how long they're going to be here or how long we're going to be here. And so, it wasn't this, why did my dad die and yada, yada, right? It was like not dramatic. It was like, like this is part of the human experience. Was there pain? Of course. Was there suffering? Yes. But I chose to have this perspective that was in alignment with reality so that when it happened, I wasn't totally rocked by it. There are people that pretend that bad things aren't supposed to happen. Cancer, death, losing jobs, etc. I mean, when my dad got cancer, I remember my mom being like, we just shouldn't tell him. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, he knows something is wrong. Like, we can't just not tell him. It's like, if we don't talk about it, if we pretend that it doesn't exist, then maybe nothing will happen. And that's what our society tends to do. But I want to invite you to consider the idea that it's actually mind-blowing and freeing when we just accept that shit happens and it's part of life, right? So the yin and yang, right? Like you have the darkness, you have the light. You also can't experience the positive emotions, the joy, and all that without the opposite, right? The other thing you notice here is not just that, they're intertwined, meaning you need each other to notice the contrast, but you notice there's a little bit of black on the white side and a little bit of white on the dark side. They are on a continuum. It's not like we have a good thing and a bad thing. It's on a continuum. This is why when I talk about the model in Freedom School or with y'all, when I talk about that, that's why we can see, okay, their circumstances are neutral because of this, because it's on a continuum. For someone, this will be a positive thing. For someone else, it's going to be a negative thing, right? So accepting that contrast is key to decreasing the suffering. All right. Now, when I'm trying to think of like another example that I could give you. Okay, the example that I use in my podcast is when I had a breakup, right? And it was someone I was pretty into, but we could tell it was just like not going to happen. And I remember driving and I was really sort of grieving it and crying, but I was like, this is so great though that I loved and that I'm feeling this heartache. Like the heartache means I'm human and I'm fully living and I'm fully experiencing right now, right? I did have the pizza boxes and the wine bottles on the living room floor, period, of like 2 or 3 days. Don't get me wrong. But after that, I was like, okay, this is part of being human. In my experience, every relationship tends to lead to a better one. So I wonder what's going to happen next, right? And what is this experience that I'm having right now? Oh, it kind of hurts. But the only reason it hurts is because I had the love and I had that time to experience the love. When we think about impermanence, when we think about, that things change, when we can accept that, we have so much less suffering, right? So, for example, so many of us get attached to things being a certain way. And that's what creates our suffering. We're like, whatever's happening in reality right now, no me gusta. Like, change that shit. This is not how I plan my day. I plan my day for shit to go smoothly, and I can't fucking believe that this is happening right now. Suffering, right? When I lived at Vajrapani Institute in Boulder Creek, it's this Buddhist retreat center, I was responsible. It was such a blessing. Like, these famous Tibetan monks would come and give teachings, and my job was to put them in my little Volvo station wagon and like give them a tour of Santa Cruz and stuff, take them to the beach. And it was so interesting to me because shit would happen, like bad traffic, people cutting us off, making reservations, showing up, things not actually happening. And they just roll with it. Like, for reals, roll with it, not pretend roll with it, but just like, oh, it's okay. And then they would always use the example of me freaking out in their teaching the next day. Like, oh, do you ever freak out when someone cuts you off in traffic? And I'd be like, that was me. That was me they're talking about, right? So I want to encourage you to consider, what if we weren't so attached to feeling good all the time? We often have this idea that, like, we believe in the way the world should be in a positive way, and that serves us somehow. So, parents should be nice to their kids. Partners shouldn't cheat on each other. You should be able to stay in a job for 20 years if you want. We should have universal health care. We should know who's president based on how many people voted for them. Like, lots of these different ideas that we think there should be no abuse. People shouldn't abuse each other, right? And if we look at that last example, all of these things seem like really good beliefs to have, right? Oh, it makes sense. We shouldn't have these beliefs. We really need to be more, we really need to advocate for all these positive things. And if we don't believe this, evil's going to take over, right? So we think, if we don't believe that abuse shouldn't happen, that means we're condoning it. And I just want to say that that's, like, couldn't be further from the truth. When you accept something, it doesn't mean that you're condoning it. It just means now our energy can be used to addressing what's happening, as opposed to fighting the reality of what is. Like, in the example of the abuse, like, I've been abused, right? By various people in various ways, physical, emotional, sexual. And we can have this idea, like, that should not happen. That should not happen to you. And yeah, like, why the fuck did that happen to me? And all the energy's focused on, like, if it shouldn't happen, why did it happen to me? Right? Instead, we could say, and this may kind of light a little fire under some of y'all, but we could say, what if abuse was part of the human condition? I think of, like, Star Wars. Like, there's always the Force, and then there's always evil, and then there's this balance having to go on, right? It's like, we're never going to get rid of abuse. So, 1 out of 5 women are sexually assaulted. There's someone who's abused every 9 seconds just in the United States alone, right? So when we are seeing this pattern, it happens, it is existing. What if, instead of saying this should not exist, and we said this happens, what is the best way that we can address this? Then people don't walk around going, well, if it's not supposed to happen, why did it happen to me? I mean, having that attitude creates so much suffering. In the case of abuse, it can create so much shame, right? We have someone walking around thinking, this isn't supposed to happen, and it happened to me. And people often think, if we accept it, that then we're in some, like, victim mentality, like, oh, This is just the way life is. Of course, I got abused. Every 9 seconds, someone's abused. And that's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is, okay, it happened. There was nothing wrong with you. It's not like it shouldn't have happened and you did something that caused it to happen, right? We have these scenarios where things happen. And if we accept that it's part of being human, war happens, fucked up elections happen, people get abused, we can help people to shift out of wondering why it happened and instead addressing what's happening and the suffering. Instead of fighting, why did my dad die? I can't believe he died. I wish I had been there. Why did my dad, like, why? It's like, okay, this is what happens. Now what? How can I take care of myself? How do we take care of children when we know that this happens, right? So I want you to like think about that. Maybe it's hard to grok right now, but just really think about what if we stop pretending bad shit wasn't supposed to happen? And what if we said that that is the human condition? It is the first noble truth. There is a reason that in Buddhism, for example, not just Buddhism, but many others, there is a reason that it's taught there is suffering. Because when we don't believe that that's part of being human, when we believe that we're supposed to be happy all the time, that it's our right to be happy all the time, when we feel entitled in that way, then we have some problems, right? But what's great is when you accept that there's suffering, then you can realize there's a way to stop it inside us, right? Then we can more effectively take action on the outside to help change things, right? So it doesn't mean that you don't strive to prevent child abuse or to prevent sexual assaults or to prevent domestic violence. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, let's take the energy that goes into wondering, what's wrong? What's wrong? It's like, this is what humans do. They've done it for millennia, right? So we need to take it upon ourselves to get out of pretending that we're supposed to feel good all the time and that only good shit's supposed to happen, and put it towards changing our internal state so that we are more effective change agents in the world for social justice and for equality. And so we can be happier and enjoy this precious life that we have, right? So, good morning, Michelle. So, the contrast of yin and yang, right? We think about all of these difficult things that happen in the world, and we think they are not supposed to happen, but they're happening. They're happening right now on the election, right? Is it a surprise? No, we already knew that this shit was going to happen, right? But now what do we do with it? Let's not take our energy wondering why shit's fucked up. And I don't mean stop wondering how to solve the problem. I'm just saying, let's stop fighting the fact that hard shit happens internally. I had a patient once who had severe depression. And every time he got depressed, it happened about once a year, sometimes every couple of years. It would be like 2 months of like heavy, heavy dysfunction, right? And sorry, I'm seeing all these Trump things pop up on my feed. I'm not looking at it, trying not to look at it. So every time those depressive episodes would happen, he would get so devastated. Like, why is this happening to me? Why me? Why? Right? And it would compound the depressive episode. Over time, with mindfulness practice, he started to have this realization like, oh, wait, this is what my particular body and mind do. every year, every couple of years, I have a period of darkness. What if I accepted that instead of always thought that it shouldn't be happening? And you know what happened? A lot less suffering. So interesting, right? So much less suffering, because now what he could do is say, hey, I feel it coming on, friends. I'm going to need your help. Also, I'm going to withdraw a little bit. Don't worry, I'm going to be okay, but do check on me. He can make plans for at work, go to his provider, ask for some medical leave, take that time off, take care of himself, right? That was the difference of the mindset of this should not be happening versus this is my particular experience. What if I can own it and then take control of it and how it impacts me, right? So, was there pain in both scenarios? Absolutely. Was there suffering in both scenarios? Absolutely. Which scenario had more suffering? The one with resistance to reality, the one with resistance to the shadow side. I mean, if any of you have done kind of like soul crafting work, I did a whole year of an intensive with Bill Plotkin on soul crafting, or if you've explored Wicca or any of this sort of very more esoteric spiritual traditions or nature-based spiritual traditions, there is an acknowledgement of the dark side, of the shadow side, not just the nature of light and dark, day and night, summer and winter, right? Fire and water, not just of that, but of our internal experience and of our nature. There's no pretending that there's a human that is so perfect and pure, right? There's an acknowledgement that we all have this shadow side that we're not aware of. The shadow side that we pretend isn't there. We pretend that we don't have the grief. We pretend that we don't have the resentment. We pretend we don't have the rage, right? And I tell you what's dangerous. What becomes dangerous is when people don't acknowledge that shadow side and they're completely unaware of it, and that shit blindsides you. These are people who blow up in rage and do crazy shit and don't even remember it or don't even understand why they did it. And we can do this on smaller levels too. Self-sabotage, sabotaging relationships, sabotaging our businesses, sabotaging the lifestyle that we want when we don't acknowledge the shadow side, right? There's such a gift in there. So in terms of the contrast, you'll have a listen to the podcast tomorrow. It's going to get released tomorrow, where I talk about sort of this contrast of emotions. But right now, I really want you to focus on what would it be like if we accepted this? What would it be like if we accepted where we're at as human beings, and we choose to, instead of wonder, why reality is actually happening and resisting the reality that's happening, we were open to our experience of reality, accepting non-judgmentally what's happening right now, and then deciding what we want to do with it. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to choose to be happy about abuse, or that you need to choose to be happy about your partner cheating on you, or that you need to choose to be happy about someone dying. That's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is you can choose your emotions about a situation. And whenever something happens, that's just life happening, the yin and yang of it on the continuum, neutral. You get to decide what you want to think about it, and you get to decide how you want to feel about it, right? Because our thoughts impact our feelings. So we decide if we want to feel a certain way. We decide if we want to think a certain way about an event, and that affects what we do. So you can still want to feel grief when someone dies, like I did when my dad died. You can still want to be angry when someone abuses you. You can still be disappointed when something that you were trying to make happen didn't happen. But the difference is in the awareness that you are choosing that as opposed to feeling this is supposed to be bad. You can also still feel bad about something and accept that it was what was supposed to happen. And you can start, instead of asking, why did this happen to me? You can ask, why did this happen for me? You know, I was thinking about all the things that I've created in my life up until now, you know, having gratitude for that. And then I was like, man, I wish I did that sooner, right? Like some of the ways I've evolved emotionally. I wish I had been there before my mom died, for example. And I could go down the path of regret and guilt. Why didn't I know that then? Why was I resistant to that then? Why didn't I do that then? Or I could go down the path of, yeah, I'm an imperfect human. That's for fucking sure. Right? I was learning still. I was growing, and I still am. I'm still making mistakes that 10 years from now, I'm going to be like, what were you thinking, girl? But is there still pain with accepting that I was an imperfect human? Of course. Is there still suffering? Of course. Of course. But it is so much less when I can then look at it like I am able to choose the story that I'm going to create about why this happened. And instead of asking, why did it happen to me? I'm going to ask, why did that happen for me? What was I supposed to learn there? You know, mothers die, fathers die, friends, loved ones. That happened. So what was I supposed to learn here through this experience? Because it didn't go the way I wanted, right? And where was my attachment to things needing to look a certain way or be a certain way, right? So that's the gift. That's the gift of being able to accept our reality, accept what is, and being able to shift into understanding that this contrast is normal. We don't need to feel fucking good all the time. And if we accept the darkness, we actually have more positive emotions, because then we're not hating the hate. Then we're not like, shaming the shame. We're just adding second and third arrows onto everything when we do that, right? So we need to be able to choose the way of viewing the world that serves us best, that helps us show up as better humans, that helps empower us. I'm just going to say a word on social justice and action. This does not mean to not take political action or to just accept that things are the way they are and not do anything about it. It means let us choose how to interpret this in a way that better serves us so we can be more effective change agents to make a difference in the world in a real way, instead of trying to pretend that this shit doesn't happen, right? This is human nature. And I don't think it's a depressing view of human nature. I think if we just acknowledge that we're imperfect, this shit's going to happen, then we can say like, hey, it's really important that people train in mindfulness so that they don't fucking blow up at the littlest thing, right? It's really important that we train people in compassion, because it doesn't always come naturally. We can say, these are the things that we need to do in our society because humans are imperfect, right? So those are just some examples, but I just want to let you know. So I know that we don't know who our president is yet. I know we don't know the outcomes of so many things, but I really want to invite you to let go of the idea that it should have been any different, to be like, instead, hey, of course this is happening. Like, I didn't even watch the election last night because I was like, I knew what was going to happen. It's like, it's not going to be a done deal. I'm not really going to watch it. And it's like, okay, so we can let go that it was supposed to go differently. It's happening right now. Now what can we do? Now what can we do? Right? How can we be more effective change agents? What can we do today? Who can we reach out to? How can we speak up? Right? We can put our energy towards that instead of energy towards why. There's a difference, and there's a more powerful stance, right? Which one feels more powerful? Which one moves forward? Which one doesn't stay stuck? You get to choose what that is for you, okay? All right, my friends, hang in there. Hang in there. May love win. May equality win. May justice win. All right? But whatever happens internally, you get to decide how you're going to respond and what you're going to make of it, okay? And I'm here for you, and we'll be meeting weekly. And we're jamming on all this in Freedom School. So you've got this, okay? Mwah. Oh, thank you, Brenda. Love to you too. Okay, bye.